February 2024. On the southernmost edge of the world, along the coast of the Ross Sea, China inaugurated its fifth Antarctic Research Center, the Qinling Station. Officially, it is a scientific laboratory. But think tanks like the Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, are issuing warnings. They argue that the station's location and its powerful satellite ground stations could have a dual purpose. On one hand, it observes space science. On the other, it could monitor Western satellite activities and collect signal intelligence. At the same time, at the Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, CCAMLR, China and Russia have joined forces to repeatedly veto Western proposals to create new marine protected areas. Their goal: unfettered access to the region's endless stocks of krill, a small, shrimp-like aquatic creature. The ice of the White Continent, known for over 60 years as a symbol of peace, science, and international cooperation, has begun to melt. But this melting isn't just due to climate change, it is melting due to geopolitical heat. Is the treaty that kept this continent free from all military activity becoming ineffective today? Are superpowers waiting for the 2048 deadline for the mineral resources that were banned in 1991? And the biggest question of all, who actually owns this vast, resource-rich continent, Antarctica? Today, we will try to find the answers to these complex questions. Antarctica. The name conjures images of endless sheets of ice, rows of penguins, and bone-chilling winds. It is the coldest, driest, highest, and windiest continent on Earth. Its total area is about 14.2 million square kilometers. Surprisingly, 98% of this vast landmass is buried under ice averaging 1.9 kilometers thick. But when did humans first become aware of this ice kingdom? Since the time of Aristotle, Greek philosophers believed that to balance the vast landmass of the north, the Arctic, there must be a corresponding massive continent in the south. They named it Antarcticos, opposite of the north. The Romans called it Terra Australis Incognita, or the unknown southern land. For centuries, it was merely a mythical concept. Many explorers gave their lives searching for this imaginary continent. But until the 17th century, no one could reach it. In 1773, British explorer Captain James Cook crossed the Antarctic Circle for the first time. He was so disheartened by the massive walls of ice that he declared, "I can be bold enough to say that no man will ever venture further than I have done, and that the lands which may lie to the south will never be explored." After Cook's declaration, almost no one ventured there for half a century. Finally, 1820 is considered the year of Antarctica's discovery. But who exactly saw the continent first is a matter of intense debate. Within just 3 days, explorers from 3 different nations claimed to have seen the continent. Russian explorer Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen, Edward Bransfield of the British Royal Navy, and American seal hunter Nathaniel Palmer all claimed to have seen the mainland or ice shelf of this frozen continent in the last week of January 1820. Initially, human interest in this continent was not science, it was money. 19th century explorers were primarily seal and whale hunters. The islands off the coast of Antarctica were an endless source of seal fur and whale oil. The demand for this oil was at its peak then, used for lighting lamps and as lubricants in industrial factories. But was it only this lucrative trade in seal and whale blubber that brought this continent to human attention? Or was there a far-reaching plan for imperial expansion behind it? How did this block of ice become the center of an international competition for land grabbing? The beginning of the 20th century. Imperialism was triumphant across the globe. Africa, Asia, the Middle East, almost entirely divided among European powers. Their hawkish eyes then fell upon the last untouched, unknown frontier of the Earth, Antarctica. This period is called the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. But this heroism was not just about humans pushing the boundaries of the infinite. It was a desperate competition for unadulterated nationalism and imperial glory. Explorers were not just explorers, they were warriors carrying the honor of their nations on their shoulders. The most intense, tragic, and famous rivalry in this race was between British Royal Navy Captain Robert Falcon Scott and the experienced, pragmatic Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen. Their goal was one: to be the first human to set foot on the South Pole and hoist their country's flag. Amundsen was a professional. He had learned the technique of dog sledding and the importance of wearing fur clothing from the Inuit. His expedition was fast, efficient, and flawless. On the other hand, Scott was a symbol of British nobility and Royal Navy tradition. Instead of using dogs, he relied more on man-hauling, men pulling sleds, which was a sign of nobility but suicidal. On December 14, 1911, Amundsen and his team reached the South Pole. They planted a Norwegian flag, pitched a tent, and left a letter for Scott. Exactly 35 days later, on January 17, 1912, when Scott and his devastated team reached the pole, they saw their rival had already flown the flag of victory. For Scott, this was a national humiliation. Scott wrote in his diary, "Great God, this is an awful place. All the daydreams must go. The Norwegians have forestalled us." Disheartened, starving, exhausted, and caught in a blizzard, Scott and his entire team died tragically on the return journey. When their bodies were found, they were still clutching their scientific samples. Amundsen won the victory, but Scott received the status of a hero. His tragic heroism became part of British national pride. This heroic age was not just about glory, it was literally an era of land grabbing. Wherever these explorers went, they planted their country's flag. Planting this flag was a symbol of declaring sovereignty or ownership. But how do you claim ownership of a vast, uninhabited, ice-covered continent like Antarctica? According to international law, to claim land, mere discovery was not enough. One had to establish effective occupation. That is, setting up an administrative structure, settlement, or at least a police outpost. But in such a hostile and uninhabitable environment as Antarctica, this was completely impossible. Who would set up a police outpost at -80 degrees? So, countries adopted a new, controversial method called the sector theory. Originally used by Canada in the Arctic, this theory suggests that from the coastline a country has discovered or occupied, they can draw two longitudinal lines straight to the South Pole and claim the entire wedge of land in between like a slice of cake. The first and most aggressive in this race to claim was the United Kingdom. Even before Scott's death in 1908, they issued an order through the governor of the Falkland Islands, declaring a huge part of Antarctica as their own. This is known today as the British Antarctic Territory. Their basis was the discoveries by British explorers like James Cook, Edward Bransfield, and James Clark Ross. Following their lead, other Commonwealth nations joined this great game. In 1923, New Zealand, on behalf of the British Empire, claimed the Ross Dependency, which was essentially the route of Amundsen and Scott's polar expeditions. France claimed a small but strategic slice named Adelie Land in 1924 based on the 1840 expedition by French explorer Jules Dumont d'Urville. In 1933, Australia alone claimed about 42% of the continent, the single largest claim in Antarctica. Then, at the very last moment in 1939, Norway claimed Queen Maud Land, based on Amundsen's polar conquest and the extensive presence of Norwegian whalers in that region. But all these claimants were European or Commonwealth nations. The game became complex, murky, and dangerous when South American countries entered the competition. In 1940 and 1942, Chile and Argentina claimed their own sectors. Their arguments were completely different and much more aggressive. They based their claims not on discovery, but on two principles. 1. Geographical proximity. They argued that the Antarctic Peninsula is a submerged extension of the South American Andes Mountains. Geographically, it is part of their continent. 2. Inheritance of the Spanish Empire. They claimed that according to the Treaty of Tordesillas of 1494, Spain owned this region, and as successors to Spain, they were the legitimate owners. The problem began when the sectors claimed by Argentina, Chile, and the UK overlapped severely. All three countries claimed the same Antarctic peninsula as their own. This peninsula is the warmest and most accessible part of the continent. Tension was not limited to paper maps. In the 1950s, these countries even fired shots at each other's bases. In 1952, the Argentine Navy fired warning shots at British scientists. The British responded by sending warships and destroying an Argentine base. Antarctica was literally turning into a battlefield. Interestingly, to solidify ownership, Argentina took an unprecedented step in 1978. They intentionally sent one of their citizens, Silvia Morella de Palma, to Antarctica to give birth. Emilio Palma was born at their Esperanza base, the first human being born on the continent of Antarctica. Argentina argued to the world that since their citizen was naturally born and living there, the land must be theirs. This was the ultimate proof of effective occupation. There was another ominous addition to this competition just before World War II. In 1939, Nazi Germany sent a massive expedition led by Admiral Alfred Richer. Their main objective was to create a permanent German base for whaling, as whale fat was essential for making glycerin, for explosives, and margarine. They launched 2 planes from the ship Schwabenland, which flew over vast parts of the continent, dropping thousands of metal darts marked with swastikas to mark their territory. They named this claimed region New Swabia. After the war, Germany's claim naturally did not hold up, but the 2 biggest players in this game had not yet entered the stage: the United States and the Soviet Union. In the post-war period, 1946 to 47, the U.S. conducted Operation High Jump, the largest Antarctic expedition in history. However, it was not a scientific expedition. It was a full-scale military exercise and mapping operation. With 13 warships, an aircraft carrier, dozens of aircraft, and 4,700 troops, Admiral Richard Byrd mapped huge parts of Antarctica. The objective was to send a clear message to the Soviet Union: Antarctica is on the U.S. strategic radar. Interestingly, while both the U.S. and the USSR conducted extensive activities on the continent, such as Admiral Byrd's expedition or the Soviet whaling fleets, they made no formal claim. Yet they did not recognize any other country's claims either. Why? Because it was a classic Cold War strategy. If they claimed a specific sector, it would indirectly legitimize other countries' claims and isolate themselves from the rest of the continent. By making no claim and recognizing no claim, they reserved the right to roam freely across the entire continent. They simply stated that they reserved the basis of claim. Consequently, by the mid-1950s, the situation in Antarctica was, in a word, explosive. 7 countries were adamant about their ownership claims. Among them, 3, UK, Argentina, and Chile, were in a belligerent stance over the same territory. Nazi Germany's abandoned claim left a geopolitical mystery. And the world's 2 new superpowers, the US and the USSR, were staring at each other with cold eyes across this frozen continent. Antarctica was then a geopolitical time bomb. World War III could have broken out at any moment, centered on this continent of ice. Antarctica was literally on the edge of a precipice. How was this impending conflict avoided? Who took the responsibility for this impossible task? And by what magic spell was this battlefield ultimately transformed into a continent of peace? The 1950s. From Berlin to Korea, the world was on the brink of nuclear war. The US and the Soviet Union had hydrogen bombs pointed at each other. In October 1957, when the Soviet Union launched the world's first satellite, Sputnik 1, a cold panic descended on the Western world. This race to conquer space took the Cold War to a new, terrifying dimension. But amidst this extreme political tension, in a completely different place, scientists were setting an example of unprecedented cooperation. To gather knowledge about the Earth and space, scientists worldwide declared 1957 to 1958 as the International Geophysical Year, IGY. It was the largest coordinated scientific initiative in human history, and one of the main focuses of this IGY was the Earth's last unknown place, Antarctica. Surprisingly, despite the extreme hostility of the Cold War, 12 countries agreed to establish more than 50 research stations in Antarctica. The US established its McMurdo Station, and the Soviet Union established its Vostok Station at the coldest place on Earth. The US and Soviet soldiers who were pointing guns at each other in Berlin became neighbors in Antarctica. They began regularly exchanging data, visiting each other's bases, and even helping each other in rescue missions during emergencies. This scientific cooperation was the spark that changed Antarctica's future. Science did in this continent what politics could not. This unprecedented scientific success gave US President Dwight D. Eisenhower a revolutionary idea. Eisenhower was a top general himself. He had seen the horrors of war up close. He realized that those overlapping claims in Antarctica and the US-Soviet proxy conflict there could trigger a nuclear conflict. He saw that if science could bring peace to this continent, then politics could too. Capitalizing on the success of the IGY, Eisenhower invited the 12 nations participating in this scientific program. The 7 claimant nations, UK, Australia, New Zealand, France, Norway, Argentina, Chile, and 5 other active nations, USA, USSR, Japan, South Africa, and Belgium, to a conference in Washington. The goal was one, to establish Antarctica forever as a demilitarized and scientific continent. From that invitation in 1958 until December 1959, these 12 countries sat through over 60 diplomatic meetings. The discussions were extremely complex and heated. There were 2 main obstacles. 1. The claimant nations, for example, Argentina, Chile, Australia, France, were in no way willing to give up an inch of their sovereignty claims. For them, it was a question of national honor. 2. The US and the Soviet Union were in no way willing to recognize the claims of those 7 nations. Recognizing them meant voluntarily depriving themselves of vast parts of the continent. How could these 2 contradictory positions be brought to one place? How could a treaty be created where everyone felt they had won? After long discussions, diplomats found a brilliant solution. This is Article 4 of the treaty. This article did not solve the explosive issue of ownership, rather, it carefully froze it. According to Article 4, no country signing this treaty is renouncing its previous claims or basis of claims. Again, no country signing this treaty is recognizing or denying any other country's claims. And while this treaty is in effect, no country can make new territorial claims or expand old ones. Simply put, the Antarctic Treaty told all parties, your claims of ownership remain as they were. We are neither accepting them nor canceling them. It is a closed box. From today, the question of ownership of this continent cannot be raised. Instead, everyone will practice science here together. This was a magnificent diplomatic victory. As a result, everyone could think of themselves as winners. Argentina and Chile could say, we haven't given up our claims. Again, the US and Soviet Union could say, we haven't recognized their claims. This magical solution opened the door for the rest of the treaty. On December 1, 1959, in Washington, D.C., these 12 countries signed the historic Antarctic Treaty, which came into effect in 1961. Other articles of this treaty were revolutionary for that time. Article 1. Antarctica shall be used for peaceful purposes only. Any military bases, maneuvers, or weapon testing are completely prohibited. It was the world's first effective demilitarized zone. Article 2. Freedom of scientific investigation and cooperation, as started in the IGY, shall continue permanently. Article 3. Scientific observations and results shall be exchanged and made freely available. Science here is not any country's private property. Article 5. Any nuclear explosions and the disposal of radioactive waste in Antarctica are prohibited. This was one of the world's first nuclear arms control agreements, signed even before the Cuban Missile Crisis. Additionally, this treaty introduced an unprecedented inspection system. Any treaty nation has the right to inspect any other country's station or installation by air or land at any time. This was a mutual surveillance system, ensuring no one could secretly conduct military activities. The Soviet Union agreed to give US inspectors free access to their areas. something unimaginable in that era of the Cold War. The Antarctic Treaty was, in a word, a diplomatic miracle. While it didn't call Antarctica terra communis, or everyone's land, it turned it into a laboratory open to all. It is a continent with no government, no indigenous people, and legally, no single owner. Its ownership belongs to all of humanity, managed through a club of these 12 countries and subsequent entrants, a treaty, which seemingly achieved the impossible. This continent of ice turned into a sanctuary for science. A nuclear war was avoided. But is this peace permanent? Has the question of ownership that was frozen begun to melt? The treaty spoke of science, banned military activity, but was mysteriously silent on one crucial issue: mineral resources. What happened to the resources for which this continent could one day become a battlefield? Was this silence the treaty's biggest weakness? The Antarctic Treaty of 1959 successfully protected the continent from military conflict and sovereignty disputes for over a decade. But in 1973, the world faced a new kind of crisis. Following the Arab-Israeli War, Arab oil-producing countries, OPEC, imposed an embargo on oil exports to the Western world. Overnight, oil prices jumped 400%. The first global energy crisis began. Industrialized nations, especially the US, Japan, and Western Europe, desperately began searching for alternative fuel sources to keep their economic wheels turning. And right then, everyone's hawk eyes fell on the southernmost continent. Geological surveys had already indicated that vast mineral reserves lay hidden beneath Antarctica's ice. Geologists said Antarctica was once part of a supercontinent called Gondwanaland, connected to Australia, Africa, and South America. Since vast mineral resources like diamonds and gold in South Africa and iron and coal in Australia were found in those continents, it stood to reason they would exist in Antarctica too. Evidence of the world's largest coal reserves was found in the Transantarctic Mountains. Explorer Shackleton was the first to discover this. More importantly, the possibility of vast oil and natural gas reserves appeared on the continental shelves of the Ross and Weddell Seas. Suddenly, the continent of science was at risk of becoming the continent of resources. Those frozen claims of the Antarctic Treaty began to heat up again. Countries with ownership claims like the UK, Australia, and Argentina sat up. They argued, if mineral extraction begins, we should have royalties or rights over the resources extracted from our claimed areas, because we are the sovereign owners of this land. On the other hand, countries with no claims like the US, then West Germany, and Japan were in favor of an open access policy. Their argument: this continent belongs to everyone, so everyone should have rights to its resources. Our multinational corporations have the right to explore and extract minerals here. The Antarctic Treaty System split into two camps over this. To resolve this conflict, long and complex discussions took place in Wellington, New Zealand throughout the 1980s. Finally, in 1988, a convention was signed. CRAMRA, Convention on the Regulation of Antarctic Mineral Resource Activities. However, this CRAMRA agreement did not ban mineral extraction, it did the exact opposite. It created a highly complex legal framework through which mineral extraction in Antarctica could be permitted under strict environmental conditions. The logic behind it was, mineral extraction is inevitable. Better to regulate it legally so that no chaos or environmental disaster occurs. The agreement was designed to satisfy both claimants and non-claimants. It was a complex royalty-sharing formula. But right at this time, environmental awareness worldwide reached a new height. International environmental organizations like Greenpeace and the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, began intense protests against this CRAMRA agreement. Their argument was clear: the consequences of any kind of mining in a fragile and extreme ecosystem like Antarctica would be catastrophic. It cannot be controlled by strict environmental conditions. A minor oil spill here would be nearly impossible to clean up, and its impact would be permanent. It could destroy entire penguin colonies or whale breeding grounds forever. Greenpeace took this protest to a unique level. They didn't just protest from the outside. In 1987, they established their own base in Antarctica. Named World Park Base, This was a masterstroke. Through this, they wanted to prove that Antarctica belongs to no country. It is a park for the whole world, and they too are partners in this continent. They spent winters there just like the treaty nations, conducted scientific research, and began monitoring the environmental activities of other countries' stations. This global pressure and intense lobbying by environmental organizations finally worked. The horrific scenes of the Exxon Valdez oil spill in Alaska in 1989 shook the world. People saw what could happen if oil spilled in a cold region. Against this backdrop, two key countries shifted their positions: Australia and France. These two countries abruptly announced that they would not ratify the CRAMRA agreement. This was like a nuclear bomb. The agreement that took so many years to create effectively died due to the objections of these two countries. The world was then at a new crossroads. Instead of mining, Australia and France proposed a completely opposite and revolutionary idea: ban all mineral resource extraction in Antarctica indefinitely. Based on this proposal, a historic protocol was signed in Madrid, Spain, in 1991. Protocol on Environmental Protection to the Antarctic Treaty, better known as the Madrid Protocol. This protocol declared Antarctica as a natural reserve devoted to peace and science. It made strict environmental impact assessments mandatory before any activity in Antarctica. But its most important section is Article 7. This article completely bans all mineral resource extraction activities in Antarctica for any purpose other than scientific research. The door to mining that had almost opened was slammed shut by the Madrid Protocol, with a huge padlock hanging on it. This was a massive victory for the environmental protection of Antarctica. But there is a specific condition attached to this ban agreement, which is at the center of today's geopolitical tension. This protocol cannot be opened for modification or review until 50 years after it comes into effect, i.e., until the year 2048. After 2048, any consultative party of the Antarctic Treaty can request a review to lift this ban. Although lifting the ban won't be easy, it requires the consent of 3/4 of the members present. This year, 2048, casts an ominous shadow over Antarctic geopolitics. Many analysts believe some countries have already started preparing for 2048. How? Not by directly preparing for mining, but by creating geological maps of the continent in the name of scientific research. They are finding out exactly where and in what quantities oil, gas, or rare earth minerals exist. They are gathering this data for the day they sit at the bargaining table after 2048. This is why the gray line between scientific mapping and mineral prospecting is becoming blurrier by the day. The Madrid Protocol has temporarily saved Antarctica from the curse of underground mineral resources. But 2048 is not very far away. Meanwhile, a new silent war has begun over a resource more valuable and accessible than oil or gas buried under ice. A war fought not with nuclear bombs, but with massive vacuum trawlers and satellite dishes pointed at the sky. What is that new war? While the Madrid Protocol has managed to lock away Antarctica's underground resources, it is silent on the resources above it. That is, the marine living resources. And this is where the new conflict of the 21st century has begun. At the center of this war is a 1-inch long shrimp-like marine creature called krill. This tiny krill is the foundation of the Antarctic marine food chain. Almost every animal on this continent relies on it. Penguins, seals, squids, seabirds, and the world's largest animal, the blue whale. Everyone's main and almost sole food is this krill. The combined weight of all krill in Antarctica is greater than the combined weight of all humans on Earth. It can be said, this krill is the engine of Antarctic marine life. But in the last decade, humans have emerged as a new and extremely hungry customer for this krill. Scientists discovered that krill oil is full of omega-3 fatty acids, which are extremely beneficial for human health. Consequently, the demand for it as a health supplement or capsule has skyrocketed worldwide. At the same time, the demand for krill as fish feed in the booming fish farming business worldwide is sky-high. Currently, Norway, South Korea, and especially China dominate this billion-dollar krill fishing market. China has not only modernized its krill fishing fleet, but also increased its numbers massively. They are using massive vacuum trawlers capable of literally sucking millions of tons of krill from the ocean. To control this unrestricted fishing, a special organization was created under the Antarctic Treaty System in 1972, CCAMLR, Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources. Its main objective was to balance conservation and rational use. Environmental scientists and Western countries, especially Australia, the UK, and the European Union, are repeatedly warning that excessive krill harvesting in certain areas, such as near the Antarctic Peninsula, is causing food shortages in penguin and whale breeding grounds. Baby penguins are dying of starvation. For this reason, these countries have proposed declaring vast parts of Antarctica, such as East Antarctica, the Weddell Sea, and the Antarctic Peninsula, as marine protected areas, MPA. In these areas, fishing would be completely banned or strictly limited so that marine animals can feed and breed safely. But CCAMLR has a fundamental weakness. According to its rules, any decision requires the consensus of all 25 member countries. If one country objects, the proposal is cancelled. And here begins the geopolitical game of the 21st century. For about the last decade, China and Russia have joined forces to consistently block or veto all major MPA proposals. Their official argument is, there is not enough scientific data behind these proposals, or it is a threat to our national food security. But Western analysts say the real reason is completely different. For instance, China wants to hold on to the market for fish feed and omega-3 health supplements for its rapidly growing fishing industry. To them, it is a strategic economic resource. On the other hand, Russia opposes Western proposals in any international forum to expand its geopolitical influence. This has intensified since the Ukraine crisis. It is a kind of proxy war for Russia in Antarctica. This krill war proves that conflict over Antarctica's resources has already begun in full swing. If the krill war is for ocean resources, the second and deeper war is for the control of the sky, for strategic positioning. Due to the geographical location of the Antarctic continent, it is one of the best places on Earth for satellite tracking and space observation. Because most of the world's intelligence, military, and weather satellites orbit in polar orbits. In this orbit, a satellite flies over the North and South poles every time it circles the Earth. If you place a ground station at the equator, you might be able to communicate with that satellite once or twice a day. But if you place a ground station at the South Pole, you can communicate with that satellite, download data, and send instructions during every single orbit. And in this field, China is silently moving far ahead of the others. Intense anxiety has arisen in the Western world over China's new Qinling station inaugurated on the shores of the Ross Sea in 2024. This station, and China's other stations like Kunlun Station, located at Dome A, the highest point on the continent, are equipped with state-of-the-art satellite receivers and telescopes. According to a report by the Washington-based think tank CSIS, these stations have dual-purpose opportunities. 1. They support China's own navigation system, Beidou, their GPS. 2. Using the same antennas, they can monitor military and intelligence satellites of Australia, New Zealand, and most importantly, the United States. They can track the signals of these satellites, intercept data, and in wartime situations, jam or disrupt these signals. Similarly, Russia also operates ground stations in Antarctica for their GLONASS GPS system, which is essential for their military. These activities directly challenge Article 1 of the Antarctic Treaty, where measures of a military nature are prohibited. The question has arisen, does satellite surveillance fall under military measures? China and Russia strongly say, no, this is merely scientific research. But the West sees it as preparation for strategic aggression and electronic warfare. Sadly, the treaty makers in 1959 thought of nuclear bombs. They could not even imagine 21st century data warfare. Alongside this geopolitical tension, a third pressure is coming from a completely different direction: tourism. Antarctica is no longer inaccessible. It has become an extreme tourism hotspot. In the 2023-24 season alone, more than 100,000 tourists set foot on this continent aboard luxury cruise ships. This growing pressure of tourism is having a severe impact on the continent's fragile environment. Black carbon emitted from tourist ships falls on the ice, darkening the white surface, which causes the ice to absorb more sunlight and melt faster. If a major cruise ship sinking or oil spill occurred, like the MS Explorer in 2007, there is no system on this continent to clean it up. The consequences would be irreparable. Moreover, a foreign virus, bacteria, or plant seed stuck to the bottom of a tourist's shoe could destroy Antarctica's unique and isolated ecosystem forever. War for krill fish, battle for space control, the looming threat of 2048, and environmental pressure in the name of tourism. The Antarctic Treaty system faces the biggest challenge in its history today. On one side, China-Russia, on the other, the Western world. But what is the position of the rest in this game? What are emerging powers like India doing? And where do countries whose very existence is tied to this ice, like Bangladesh, stand in this equation? In this complex and polarized geopolitics of Antarctica, India is a key and distinct player. Since its first successful expedition in 1981, India has maintained a strong scientific presence in Antarctica. In 1983, India became a consultative party to the Antarctic Treaty. That is, they have voting rights in determining the future of this continent. First, Dakshin Gangotri in 1984, then Maitri in 1989, and finally the state-of-the-art Paradhi Station. Established in 2012, India's permanent research centers are not just for science. They are symbols of geopolitical presence. India's position is quite strategic. India has supported no country's ownership claims and maintained a non-aligned stance. For now, the country's main focus is science. But which science? India has focused on scientific research that is directly linked to its own national interest. For example, by analyzing ice cores in Antarctica and observing the weather there, Indian scientists are trying to forecast the Indian Ocean dipole and the behavior of the monsoon winds. Antarctica's weather and India's monsoons are intricately linked. The food security and agricultural economy of billions of people in India depend on this monsoon. So, India's presence in Antarctica is not a luxury. It is an essential part of protecting its national interest. Because of this scientific expertise, India's voice is heard with importance at the Antarctic policy-making table. But where is Bangladesh's position? Bangladesh has not yet signed the Antarctic Treaty. On the surface, it might seem that the complex politics of this white continent is an irrelevant event thousands of miles away from Dhaka. The question may arise, why should Bangladesh have a headache over Antarctica's melting ice or geopolitics when it has no research center or territorial claim there? The reason, in a word, existential crisis. Antarctica is the Earth's air conditioner. It is the main regulator of the global climate. The ice sheets of this continent reflect the sun's heat into space, keeping the Earth cool. It is the reservoir of 70% of the world's fresh water. If the West Antarctic ice sheet, especially its two notorious glaciers, Thwaites, the Doomsday Glacier, and Pine Island Glacier, become completely unstable and melt, which scientists are now asking, when will happen, not if. Global sea levels will rise by 3 to 5 meters. What does this mean? It means that more than 1/3 of a low-delta region like Bangladesh will be permanently submerged under the sea. The country's main seaports, Chittagong and Mongla, will become non-functional. Millions of people will lose their homes and farmland, turning into climate refugees. This will bring about a humanitarian disaster far worse than any war or famine. Therefore, what happens in Antarctica does not stay in Antarctica. When China and Russia sit in CCAMLR meeting and block the creation of marine protected areas, they are not just bargaining over fishing rights for krill. They are weakening the marine ecosystem that absorbs carbon and prevents ocean acidification, helping to keep the Earth cool. The warmer the ocean, the faster the Antarctic ice melts. When countries strengthen their strategic positions on the continent in the name of scientific research, hoping to extract mineral resources after 2048, they threaten the Madrid Protocol, the protocol that has been protecting this continent from destructive industrialization. The ice of Antarctica is a vast mirror. in that mirror, we don't just see the reflection of penguins or whales. In that mirror, we see the future of millions of homes in the coastal regions of Bangladesh. In that mirror, we see the saltwater-flooded rice fields of a farmer in Khulna. This is why joining the Antarctic Treaty and speaking up for the protection of this continent in international forums is no longer a strategic luxury for climate-vulnerable countries like Bangladesh. It is essential for the struggle for existence. If Bangladesh signs this treaty, it can emerge as a powerful voice for climate-vulnerable nations. They can claim that protecting Antarctica's environment means protecting Bangladesh's coast. We started our inquiry with a question: who actually owns the continent of Antarctica? The legal answer is, this continent belongs to no one. The claims of 7 countries have been frozen or suspended. Under the Antarctic Treaty, it belongs to all of humanity, dedicated only to peace and science. But the geopolitical answer is much more complex and murky. The reality is, Antarctica has turned into a battlefield of a new, great game. It is a battlefield where bullets are not fired, but surveillance is conducted via satellites, where tanks do not roll, but massive vacuum trawlers plunder resources. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959 was a unique creation of the Cold War era, a miraculous solution to avoid nuclear conflict. But is this treaty ready to face the new kind of Cold War of the 21st century over resources, data, and climate change? 2048 is not very far away. If the environmental protection system of the Madrid Protocol collapses, the world will face a horrific situation. If that competition for mineral resource extraction begins again, those frozen ownership claims of Antarctica will awaken. The world war of that day will be for oil, gas, and rare minerals. Antarctica's ownership is not written in any historical document. Its ownership will be determined in the next 2 decades. Will nations walk the path of unprecedented cooperation, like in 1959, or will they bloody this white continent in war against each other out of greed for resources? The ice of this continent is not melting just because of climate change. It is also melting in the heat of superpowers' greed, and in the waters of that melting ice, the ultimate fate of mankind in the 21st century will be determined.